He slapped her, right there on the courthouse steps in broad daylight, like she was nobody. Just another old black woman who didn't follow instructions. Yeah, that happened. Thing is, he didn't know who he just put his hands on. And in exactly 4 minutes, his whole empire of privilege and silence, it started to crumble. The morning was quiet, too quiet, like the kind that fools you into thinking nothing big's about to happen. A low breeze blew across the city of Lathrop, Georgia. The sky, pale and dusty, hung above the county courthouse like an old sheet. On those stone steps walked a woman in a long brown dress, silver hair tucked neatly back, no jewelry, no flash, just presence. Her name was Eloise Gardner, and nobody, not even the guards, gave her more than a passing glance. Well, one did. Sergeant Travis Benton, 6'1", squared jaw, aviator shades, 35, going on full-blown ego trip. He clocked Eloise as she approached the front doors. "Ma'am, this entrance is for court personnel only," he barked, not even looking up from his clipboard. Eloise didn't flinch. She just looked him in the eye and said, "I am court personnel." He chuckled. "I've never seen you before." She smiled softly. "Maybe you've never looked long enough." Now that should have been his cue to pause. To maybe, I don't know, think. But no. Benton took off his sunglasses, scanned her hair like it was some kind of violation of protocol, then reached out and grabbed her shoulder like he owned the air around her. She shifted slightly, trying to avoid the contact, and then he slapped her. The sound wasn't loud, just sharp, ugly, disrespectful. It echoed against the concrete like a mistake you can't take back. The guard by the door dropped his walkie in shock. Eloise didn't cry out, didn't stumble. She just stood there, tilted her head slightly like someone had opened an old, dusty door in her memory. Then she walked past him, didn't look back. Didn't say a word. And 4 minutes later, courtroom 6B was called into session. Every lawyer, every clerk, every soul in that room turned when they saw her. Because Eloise Gardner wasn't just anyone. She was Judge Gardner, senior district judge, 27 years on the bench. A reputation so quiet it whispered louder than most men could shout. She sat down, tapped the mic, and said calmly, "This morning's docket will begin now. I have a preliminary request. All security footage from this morning is to be preserved. A uniformed officer struck me without cause. I will be issuing a summons." The courtroom went dead still. Travis Benton, yeah, he was standing in the back now, face pale, jaw twitching, suddenly sweating under his badge. For the first time in years, the court smelled like fear, real fear, not from the accused, but from the people in power. And Eloise? She didn't rage, she didn't shout, she just did what she always did. She let the silence do the talking. Because real power isn't noise, it's weight. And she had weight. By lunch, whispers had turned into files. Rosalind Tran, her clerk, came in holding a dusty folder, an old complaint from a woman named Vanessa Rooks, black, 34, pulled from her car 3 years ago by, you guessed it, Benton. Filed a complaint, then vanished from the system. Internal Affairs marked it as handled. But Rosalind? She found a backup. Handwritten letter from Vanessa. The worst part wasn't being thrown on the pavement. It was knowing no one would believe me. Judge Gardner read it, closed the folder, and said, "Schedule an inquiry, no exceptions." Now let me back up a sec. Eloise wasn't doing this for the cameras. Hell, there weren't any. This wasn't a headline story. Yet. But change doesn't start with cameras. It starts in rooms where justice has been napping for too long. And things got worse before they got better. On Thursday, Rosalind came in trembling. A lock of silver hair tied with black thread was left on Eloise's desk. No note, just a threat scribbled on the wall. "A head held high must bow." Yeah, real original. But Eloise didn't flinch. Instead, she called a closed hearing, presented the evidence. Names started falling out like loose teeth. Deputy Judicial Coordinator, Head of Enforcement Oversight, even the State Legal Director. And sitting in the back of that list, Gerald Benton, Travis's older brother, Deputy Director of State Internal Affairs. No wonder complaints never went anywhere. Meanwhile, her grandson, Noah, uploaded a short video of Eloise tying her silver hair at a window, sunlight catching each strand like a flame. He called it, "My Grandma's Hair." That video hit 500,000 views in 2 days. The internet named her Granny Justice. People began sharing stories. Hair became a symbol of memory, of identity, of resistance. Then something awful happened. Noah went missing. His bike and backpack were found at a lakeside park. No leads, no signs. Eloise paused everything. The investigations, the hearings, all of it. She sat by the lake every day for a week, holding his muddy shoe, not saying a word. But she wasn't alone. 10,000 volunteers came, with dogs, drones, flashlights. The hashtag #FindNoah spread like wildfire. Street artists painted his face on buildings. And on a Sunday morning, a crowd of 3,000 gathered downtown, not to protest, not to riot, but just to stand, silently, holding letters Noah had written. One of them said, "If they silence her, I'll speak. If they cut her hair, I'll grow it back." Eloise returned to the bench 2 days later. No robe, no hairpin, just her voice. She said, "Justice isn't what happens in this room, it's what happens after, when the stories leave this courtroom and walk the streets." And they did. Vanessa Rooks returned, this time to run for city council. Marcus Boyd, a kid once beaten by officers for filming a stop, launched a youth legal literacy campaign. And the bust they erected of Judge Gardner? Not in chambers, not in City Hall. It was placed by the lakeside, her sitting on a bench, holding Noah's shoe, eyes on the horizon. The plaque reads, "Justice doesn't need to be tall, it just needs to be true." But the ending wasn't really an ending, because just before the state could launch federal indictments, Gardner's office was raided, not officially, of course. No broken locks, just her files scattered, her computer wiped clean, and one single paper left folded on her chair. "The higher you rise, the harder we clip." She read it, smiled faintly, and whispered to herself, "Then clip harder." Now you tell me, was that justice? Or just the beginning of something we've waited too long to see? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should she have gone public? Should the system fear a woman with silver hair and too many stories? And if you're still listening out there, maybe this story wasn't just about Eloise. Maybe it's about all of us.